The corporate trafficking manifest listed her as Specimen 7 Alpha Botanical Hybrid. But when the frightened alien child reached through the cage bars and touched his hand, he felt her silent scream for help echo through his soul. His palm, against the observation window of Hydroponics Bay 7, watching the morning light cycle illuminate the vast agricultural complex of Demeter Station. At 42, his weathered hands told the story of decades spent coaxing life from hostile environments, first as a terraforming engineer on dead worlds, now as the station's head botanist. The transition hadn't been his choice, but sometimes, life forced you to plant new seeds in unexpected soil. Another shipment from the rehabilitation center arrived overnight, his assistant Kai announced, checking the manifest on his datapad. Exotic specimens for quarantine processing, Marcus frowned. The so-called Cosmic Wildlife Rehabilitation Center had been sending increasingly unusual shipments to their station for processing and evaluation. Something about their operation never sat right with him, but Demeter Station's administrators insisted the partnership was profitable and legitimate. I'll inspect them personally, Marcus decided, grabbing his bioscanner and protective gear. The cargo bay reeked of disinfectant and something else. Fear. Marcus had spent enough time around stressed organisms to recognize the scent. The shipment consisted of 12 containment units, each housing what appeared to be rare plant specimens. But as he began his examination, Marcus noticed something disturbing. These weren't just plants. Inside the 7th container, partially hidden among luminescent fungi, he spotted movement. Marcus adjusted his scanner's frequency and gasped. The readings showed a complex neural network. This wasn't flora at all, but some form of plant-animal hybrid. As he peered closer, 2 large silver eyes opened among the foliage, staring directly at him. The creature was small, roughly the size of a human child, with bark-like skin that shifted between brown and green. Delicate leaves grew from her scalp, instead of hair, and her limbs were slender as young branches. But those eyes, ancient, intelligent, and filled with profound sadness, were unmistakably sentient. "My God," Marcus whispered, his heart racing. "You're not a specimen, you're a person." The creature flinched at his voice but didn't retreat. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him with curious intensity. Marcus noticed thin roots extending from her feet into the soil of her container, and wherever they touched, the dying plants around her seemed to regain vitality. He quickly checked the shipping manifest. Specimen 7 Alpha, Rare Sylphy Botanical Hybrid. Origin, Kepler 442b Colony. Status, Experimental Subject for Agricultural Enhancement Research. The clinical language made his stomach turn. Marcus had heard whispers about the Sylphy, a near-extinct species known for their symbiotic relationship with plant life. Their homeworld had been devastated by corporate mining operations 50 years ago, scattering the survivors across the galaxy. Most had been captured and sold to research facilities, prized for their unique biological properties. "What have they done to you?" he murmured. The girl, for he was certain she was just a child, reached through the containment barrier with one slender finger, barely touching his hand. The moment their skin made contact, Marcus felt a rush of emotions that weren't his own. Loneliness, confusion, hope, and an overwhelming desire for freedom and sunlight. The empathic connection lasted only seconds, but it changed everything. Marcus had always believed that all sentient life deserved dignity and protection. It's why he'd left terraforming when corporations began prioritizing profit over ecological balance. Now, faced with this frightened child, that belief became an unshakable resolve. "Listen to me," he said softly, kneeling to her level. "My name is Marcus. I'm going to get you out of here." The girl's silver eyes widened with surprise and tentative hope. She touched her throat and shook her head. Either she couldn't speak, or she'd been conditioned not to. Marcus spent the next hour carefully examining the other containers, his anger growing with each discovery. 3 more contained young Sylphy, while the rest housed various other sentient beings masquerading as specimens. The rehabilitation center wasn't rehabilitating anything. It was trafficking. His mind raced through options. He could report this to station security, but Demeter's administrators had financial ties to the center. The Galactic Ethics Committee was light years away and notoriously slow to act. By the time help arrived, these children would be dissected in some corporate laboratory. That left only one option. He'd have to free them himself. Marcus returned to the girl who'd first caught his attention. "I'm going to call you Zara," he said, choosing a name that meant blooming flower in ancient Earth languages. "Would you like that?" She nodded solemnly, then pressed both palms against the barrier. This time, the empathic connection was stronger. Marcus felt her gratitude, her desperate need for safety, and something else, an incredible love for all living things that reminded him why he devoted his life to nurturing growth. Over the next 6 hours, Marcus carefully planned his rescue operation. He couldn't save all of them at once without raising alarms, but he could start with Zara. Using his administrative access, he reclassified her container as contaminated botanical waste, scheduled for incineration. The automated systems would route her to the disposal bay where he'd be waiting. As night shift began and the cargo bay emptied, Marcus enacted his plan. He bypassed the disposal system's safety protocols, a skill he'd learned during his terraforming days, and intercepted Zara's container before it reached the incinerator. "It's okay," he whispered as he opened the containment unit. "You're safe now." Zara emerged cautiously, her root-like feet making no sound on the metal floor. She was smaller than he'd thought, probably equivalent to an 8-year-old human. Her bark skin was scarred in places, evidence of medical procedures that made Marcus's blood boil. He'd prepared a small hydroponics chamber in his private quarters, technically against regulations, but his senior status afforded him certain privileges. As they made their way through the station's maintenance corridors, Zara stayed close to his side, her large eyes constantly scanning for threats. His quarters felt different with Zara there. She immediately gravitated toward his collection of earth plants, touching each one gently. Under her influence, Marcus watched in amazement as his struggling orchid suddenly burst into bloom, and his dying basil plant straightened with renewed vigor. "Incredible," he murmured. "You're not just connected to plant life, you're a healer." Zara looked up at him, and for the first time, she smiled. It was a shy, tentative expression, but it transformed her entire face. In that moment, Marcus realized he wasn't just rescuing this child. She was healing something broken inside him too. He'd lost his wife and daughter in a terraforming accident 7 years ago, a tragedy that had driven him to leave the dangerous frontier work and retreat to the relative safety of agricultural stations. Since then, he'd existed rather than lived, finding solace only in his plants. But Zara's presence stirred something he'd thought dead, the desire to protect and nurture not just flora, but family. That first night, as Zara curled up in the makeshift bed he'd created from soft-growing medium and thermal blankets, Marcus kept watch by the window. She slept fitfully, occasionally whimpering in what he assumed were nightmares. Each time he'd place a gentle hand on her shoulder, and she'd calm. Around midnight, his door chimed softly. Marcus tensed, but it was only Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's xenobiologist and one of the few people he trusted completely. "I know what you did," Elena said quietly, her dark eyes serious. "The manifest discrepancies, the disposal system bypass. I helped design those security protocols, Marcus." His heart sank. "Elena, I can explain." "You don't need to," she interrupted, glancing toward where Zara slept. "I've been tracking the rehabilitation center's activities for months. They're not rehabilitating anything. They're conducting illegal experiments on sentient beings." Relief flooded through Marcus. "Then you understand why I had to—" "Absolutely," Elena said firmly. "But we need to be smart about this. The center will notice she's missing soon. We need a plan to keep her safe and expose what they're really doing." As if sensing the tension in the room, Zara stirred and opened her silver eyes. She looked between Marcus and Elena with obvious anxiety, until Marcus knelt beside her. "This is Elena," he said softly. "She's a friend. She wants to help us." Zara studied Elena for a long moment, then reached out tentatively. Elena offered her hand, and when Zara touched it, the xenobiologist gasped. "She's sharing emotions." Elena whispered in wonder. "The empathic connection, I can feel her fear, but also her hope. And something else." She looked at Marcus with amazement. "She's already bonded with you. In Sylphy culture, that's equivalent to choosing a parent." The weight of that revelation settled over Marcus like a warm blanket. He'd rescued Zara thinking he was saving her life, but she was saving his too, filling the void left by his lost family with new purpose and love. "Then we're family now," Marcus said, gently stroking Zara's leaf hair. "And families protect each other." As dawn approached and Demeter Station began its morning cycle, Marcus realized their real journey was just beginning. They had to find a way to expose the rehabilitation center, rescue the other captives, and somehow give Zara the life she deserved, one filled with sunlight, growth, and the love of chosen family. Outside his window, the station's main gardens were beginning to bloom with the artificial sunrise. For the first time in years, Marcus felt truly hopeful about the future they would grow together. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus brought Zara home, and life on Demeter Station had developed a careful rhythm. During the day, Zara hid in his private greenhouse laboratory while he worked, surrounded by plants that seemed to thrive in her presence. In the evenings, Elena would join them, bringing supplies and updates on her investigation into the rehabilitation center. "The center's filed a missing specimen report," Elena announced during one of their clandestine meetings, her voice tight with concern. "They're claiming Zara was a valuable research subject worth millions of credits." Marcus felt Zara tense beside him. She'd been making remarkable progress, learning basic standard Galactic and even speaking a few words aloud, though she still preferred their empathic connection for complex communication. The bond between them had deepened daily, and Marcus found himself thinking less about his lost family and more about protecting the one he'd found. "They can file all the reports they want," Marcus said firmly, placing a protective hand on Zara's shoulder. "She's not property." Zara looked up at him with those luminous silver eyes, and he felt her gratitude flow through their connection along with something else: determination. She was growing stronger each day, both physically and emotionally, but Marcus noticed her abilities were expanding too. "Show Elena what you discovered yesterday," Marcus encouraged gently. Zara nodded and moved to a withered Terran rosebush that Marcus had been trying to save for months. She placed her small hands on the dying plant's stem and closed her eyes in concentration. Within seconds, the plant began to transform. Dead branches sprouted fresh green shoots, and moments later, dozens of vibrant red roses bloomed in a cascade of color and fragrance. Elena gasped. "That's impossible. Complete cellular regeneration shouldn't happen that quickly, even with the most advanced bioenhancement technology." "She's not using technology," Marcus said with pride. "This is pure Sylphy ability, magnified by something I've never seen before." Through their bond, Marcus felt Zara's desire to communicate something important. She moved to Elena and took her hand, sharing a complex emotional message that left the xenobiologist stunned. She says she can feel the pain of all the captured ones," Elena translated slowly. "They're crying out through the plant networks that connect everything. She wants to help them." Marcus knelt beside Zara, his heart swelling with both pride and worry. "You want to rescue the others, don't you?" Zara nodded emphatically, then moved to Marcus's personal computer terminal. Her fingers, more like slender twigs, moved across the interface with surprising dexterity. She pulled up the cargo manifest from 3 weeks ago and pointed to each container that had held a sentient being. 11 others, Elena breathed, all listed as botanical specimens or biological curiosities. "Marcus, if Zara's abilities are this advanced, imagine what the others might be capable of." Which is exactly why the rehabilitation center wants them back, Marcus said grimly. "They're not just trafficking sentient beings, they're harvesting their abilities." Zara suddenly stiffened, her eyes wide with alarm. Through their bond, Marcus felt a wave of terror that wasn't entirely hers. She pressed her palms against the floor, and he realized she was somehow communing with the station's plant network. Every garden, every food production facility, every decorative flora was connected through an invisible web of root systems and chemical communications. "Danger," she whispered aloud, her voice like rustling leaves. "Bad people coming. They smell of death and metal." Marcus and Elena exchanged alarmed glances. Before they could ask for clarification, the station's communication system crackled. "To life. Attention, Demeter Station. This is Captain Vex of the corporate security vessel Harvester. We're requesting permission to dock for a routine inspection regarding stolen biological property." Marcus's blood ran cold. Corporate security forces were notorious for their ruthless efficiency and flexible interpretation of legal rights. If they boarded the station, Zara would be discovered within hours. "We need to get off the station," Elena said urgently, already moving toward her emergency supply cache. "I've been preparing for this possibility." "Where can we go?" Marcus asked, gathering Zara close. "They'll track any official transport." "The agricultural supply ship Verdant Dawn docks in 6 hours, Elena replied, pulling up shipping schedules. "Captain Sarah Okafor owes me a favor, and she's no friend to corporate overreach. But we need to move now. Security lockdown protocols begin the moment that ship docks." Zara tugged on Marcus's sleeve, her eyes urgent. She led them to the greenhouse wall and pressed her palms against it. Suddenly, the entire wall bloomed with bioluminescent fungi, creating a living map of the station. She pointed to specific locations, communicating through their bond. "She's showing us the path," Marcus realized. "Through the maintenance tunnels where the root networks are strongest, she can guide us using the plants themselves." As they prepared to leave, Marcus faced the hardest decision of his career. His life's work, decades of research, carefully cultivated specimens, the greenhouse that had been his sanctuary, would all be left behind. But looking at Zara's trusting face, he knew none of it mattered compared to her safety. "I'm downloading your research files," Elena said, working frantically at the computer. "Whatever happens, this knowledge needs to be preserved." They gathered essential supplies: water, nutrient packs, portable growing medium for Zara, and Marcus's most precious possession, a seed collection from Earth that represented the last remnants of extinct plant species. If they were going into exile, they'd take life with them. The journey through the station's maintenance network was surreal. Zara led them through passages Marcus hadn't known existed, her connection to the plant life allowing her to sense the safest roots. Everywhere they passed, vines parted to create openings, and bioluminescent moss provided gentle lighting. It was as if the station itself was helping them escape. The sylphi weren't just connected to plants, Elena whispered in amazement as they crawled through a tunnel lined with root systems. They were the nervous system of their entire ecosystem. They reached the cargo bay just as the Harvester's docking sequence began. The Verdant Dawn sat in Bay 7, its loading ramps open as automated systems transferred supplies. Captain Okafor, a weathered woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair, was personally overseeing the operation. "Elena," she called out, spotting them emerging from the maintenance hatch. "What's the rush, and who's your friend?" Marcus held his breath as Sarah's gaze fell on Zara. The captain's expression shifted from confusion to understanding to protective fury in rapid succession. "Corporate security?" she asked grimly. "Trafficking," Elena confirmed. "This child needs sanctuary, and we need passage to wherever you'll take us." Sarah studied Zara, who stepped forward bravely despite her obvious fear. "Hello, little one," the captain said gently. "I'm Sarah. Are these people taking care of you?" Zara nodded, then surprised everyone by speaking aloud. "Marcus is family. Elena is friend. You have good heart." Sarah's eyes softened. "Well then, family of my friends are welcome aboard, but we leave in 10 minutes. Corporate security just requested priority docking, and I don't intend to be here when they arrive." As they boarded the Verdant Dawn, Marcus felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. They were safe for now, but where could they go? The corporate reach extended across most of civilized space, and Zara's abilities made her too valuable to simply ignore. "I know what you're thinking," Sarah said as they settled into passenger quarters. "But there are places beyond corporate control, people who remember what the galaxy was like before profit became the only measure of worth." She produced a star chart showing the Outer Rim territories. The Sylphi survivors established a hidden colony in the Kepler 442 system, their original homeworld. It's in neutral space, protected by some very unfriendly neighbors who don't appreciate corporate interference. Zara's eyes lit up with excitement, and through their bond, Marcus felt her overwhelming joy at the possibility of being among her own people. But he also sensed her conflicted emotions. She didn't want to leave him. "Hey," Marcus said softly, pulling her close. "Wherever you need to go, we go together. That's what family does." As the verdant dawn departed Demeter Station, Marcus watched through the porthole as the Harvester docked in their wake. He thought about the life he'd left behind, the security, the routine, the careful isolation he'd cultivated since losing his first family. All of it seemed insignificant now compared to the fierce love he felt for this extraordinary child who'd chosen him as her guardian. Elena joined them at the observation deck, carrying seed samples and data cores. "I managed to save most of your research," she said. "But more importantly, I documented everything about the rehabilitation center's operations. When we reach safe haven, we can expose them." Zara touched both their hands, sharing a complex emotion through her empathic connection, gratitude mixed with determination and hope. In her touch, Marcus felt echoes of all the other captives still suffering in corporate facilities across the galaxy. "This isn't just about saving you anymore, is it?" he asked her. Zara shook her head, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the porthole. "Save all family," she said clearly. "Grow new hope." As the verdant dawn jumped to hyperspace, carrying them toward an uncertain but promising future, Marcus realized their journey was far from over. They weren't just fleeing. They were planting the seeds of a resistance that could bloom across the galaxy. And with Zara's incredible abilities and Elena's scientific expertise, they might actually have a chance to succeed. The stars streaked past their window, each one representing infinite possibilities for growth, healing, and the kind of family that chose love over law, compassion over profit. For the first time since leaving Demeter Station, Marcus allowed himself to hope for more than just survival. He dared to dream of victory. The journey to the Kepler 442 system took 2 weeks, during which the verdant dawn became a floating sanctuary for their unlikely family. Captain Okafor proved to be more than just a sympathetic transport. She was a veteran of the corporate wars who'd seen firsthand the devastation caused by unchecked exploitation of sentient species. Used to be a terraforming engineer myself, Sarah confided to Marcus as they watched Zara tend to the ship's small hydroponic garden, until I witnessed what Titan Corporation did to the Andromedans on their homeworld. Sometimes the only moral choice is to walk away from the system entirely. Marcus understood that sentiment intimately. Watching Zara coax vibrant vegetables from previously struggling plants, he marveled at how much she'd grown during their journey. Her standard galactic had improved dramatically, and her confidence was blooming alongside her expanding abilities. "The other captives," Zara said one evening as they shared dinner in the ship's small common area. "I can still feel them through the green networks. They're scared, but they know we're coming." Elena looked up from her research tablet where she'd been documenting everything about Sylphi biology and culture. "Coming? Zara, we're going to your people's sanctuary. You'll be safe there." Zara shook her head firmly, her silver eyes blazing with determination that reminded Marcus of his daughter's stubborn streaks. "Safety is not enough. Family is still trapped. Must go back for them." "Absolutely not," Marcus said instinctively. "It's too dangerous. Those corporate security forces are not expecting an attack from someone who can control their life support systems," Sarah interrupted thoughtfully. "Tell me, little one, just how far does your influence extend?" As if in answer, every plant on the ship suddenly began to glow with soft bioluminescence, creating a living light show that filled the cabin with ethereal beauty. Through his bond with Zara, Marcus felt her reach extend beyond the ship itself, touching every bit of organic matter in the surrounding space. Spores, microorganisms, even the bacterial cultures that helped maintain their air recycling systems. Remarkable, Elena breathed. You're not just communicating with plant life. You're integrating with entire biological networks. That's not just evolution, that's transcendence. Zara dimmed the display and looked seriously at each of them. Where I come from, plants and people were one family. When family is hurt, all feel pain. Cannot ignore pain of others just to be safe. Her words hit Marcus like a physical blow. How many times had he told himself that leaving terraforming was the responsible choice, that keeping his head down and avoiding risk was wisdom rather than cowardice? Zara was teaching him that true strength came not from protecting yourself, but from protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. Kepler 442 in 3 hours, Sarah announced from the bridge. And I'm picking up some interesting signals from the surface. As they approached the Sylphy homeworld, Marcus was struck by its remarkable beauty. Unlike the sterile, geometrically planned worlds favored by human colonies, Kepler 442b was a living artwork. Vast forests formed spiraling patterns visible from orbit, and bioluminescent networks pulsed like neural pathways across entire continents. It's breathing, Elena whispered in awe. The entire planet is functioning as a single organism. Their landing was guided not by traditional navigation, beacons, but by the planet itself. Trees bent to create a landing corridor, and when the verdant dawn touched down, flowers bloomed in perfect landing pad formation beneath their feet. The Sylphi who greeted them were taller than Zara, their bark-like skin weathered with age and experience, but their silver eyes held the same gentle intelligence. Elder Thorn, their apparent leader, approached with movements like wind through leaves. "Welcome home, little seedling," he said to Zara in the Sylphi's musical language. "We felt your awakening across the void. Your light burns brighter than any we have known." Through their bond, Marcus felt Zara's overwhelming joy at being among her people, but also her continued anxiety about the other captives. When she shared her intention to rescue them, the Sylphi elders exchanged meaningful glances. "The burning ones have caused much pain," Elder Thorn said, switching to standard galactic for the humans' benefit. "But direct confrontation has never been our way. We grow, we heal, we endure." "Enduring isn't enough anymore," Zara replied with a conviction that surprised everyone. "While we hide and heal, they hurt more of our family. I won't let that happen." Over the following days, Marcus watched Zara integrate into Sylphy society while maintaining her fierce determination to help the other captives. The planet's collective consciousness welcomed her eagerly, and her abilities expanded exponentially when connected to the global network. She could sense plant life across dozens of star systems now, including the locations where her captured kin were being held. 11 facilities, she reported during a gathering of elders and their human allies. The rehabilitation center was just one branch, their breeding programs trying to create artificial Sylphy with our abilities, but without our consciousness. The revelation horrified everyone present. Elena's research had confirmed the worst fears. The corporations weren't just exploiting Sylphy abilities. They were trying to mass-produce them in captive, enslaved clones. "This changes everything," Elder Thorn admitted. "Such violation of life itself cannot be tolerated." Marcus found himself appointed as an unlikely ambassador between species. His engineering background, combined with his bond to Zara and Elena's scientific expertise, made him uniquely qualified to help plan what the Sylphy began calling the Great Germination. "We don't fight with weapons," Elder Root explained as they designed their strategy. "We fight with life itself. Every facility that holds our people also depends on biological systems. Air recyclers, water purifiers, food synthesizers. All contain organic components that can be influenced." The plan that emerged was elegant in its simplicity. Using the galactic communication networks that existed within bacterial cultures on thousands of ships and stations, the Sylphy would coordinate a simultaneous liberation effort. Zara, with her unprecedented range and power, would serve as the central coordinator. "You don't have to do this," Marcus told her the night before their mission began. "You're safe here with your people. That's what we fought for." Zara took his hands in her small, root-like fingers. "You taught me that family means protecting each other. The captured ones are family. The humans who help them are family. Even the corporate people who do bad things, they are lost family, who forgot how to grow toward light." Her wisdom humbled him. Through their bond, he felt her absolute certainty that this was right, necessary, and possible. She wasn't just planning to rescue captives. She was planning to heal an entire broken system. The Great Germination began at 800 Galactic Standard Time across 17 star systems simultaneously. On each facility, holding Sylphi captives, the organic systems that kept the stations operational suddenly began to evolve. Air recyclers started producing spores that induced peaceful euphoria in humans, while having no effect on plant-bonded species. Water systems began flowing toward containment areas, creating escape routes. Food synthesizers started producing only nutritious, life-affirming compounds that encouraged empathy and clarity of thought. Marcus watched from the verdant Dawn's bridge as reports flooded in. Guards at the facilities weren't being harmed. They were being transformed. Exposure to the Sylphi-influenced biological systems was awakening dormant empathic abilities in humans, causing corporate security forces to suddenly understand the suffering they'd been causing. "Facility 7 is reporting a complete work stoppage," Sarah announced, monitoring communication channels. "The guards are releasing captives and demanding to speak with ethics committees." "Facility 12 has gone dark," Elena added. "But I'm reading massive bioluminescent activity. I think the entire station is being converted into a garden." At the center of it all, Zara sat in meditation among the Sylphi elders. Her consciousness expanded across light years of space, gently guiding the greatest rescue operation in galactic history. Through their bond, Marcus felt echoes of her, vast awareness touching minds, healing trauma, nurturing growth in places that had known only exploitation. The corporate response was swift and predictably violent. Warships were dispatched to retake the facilities, but they encountered something unprecedented. Their own biological systems had been influenced during routine supply runs to the affected stations. Crews found themselves unable to fire on facilities that now glowed with the warm light of life itself. "Status report from all 17 facilities," Elena announced 12 hours after the operation began. "All Sylphi captives successfully liberated. 0 casualties reported. Most remarkable of all, corporate personnel are requesting permission to join the sanctuary worlds." As news of the Great Germination spread across the galaxy, it triggered something even more extraordinary, a awakening of consciousness among species that had forgotten their connection to life itself. Planets that had been stripped bare began showing signs of recovery. Space stations reported spontaneous garden growth. Even the most cynical corporate executives found themselves compelled to reconsider their relationship with the living universe. Marcus stood with Zara on the observation deck of their new home. A bioship grown rather than built, capable of traveling the stars while maintaining complete ecological harmony. Around them, representatives from dozens of species worked together on what they were calling the Life Restoration Project. "You did it," he told her, marveling at the transformation in both Zara and the galaxy itself. "You saved everyone." Zara smiled, her silver eyes reflecting the bioluminescent stars that now marked their path through space. "We did it," she corrected. "Human heart that chose love over fear. Verdani science that sought truth over profit. Sylphi growth that connects all life. Together, we are stronger than any force that tries to divide us." Elena joined them, carrying a data tablet showing reports from across known space. "The corporate Senate is drafting new legislation protecting all sentient species. The rehabilitation centers are being converted into actual healing facilities, and 3 new sanctuary worlds have been established for refugees from exploitation." Through his window, Marcus could see other bioships in their growing fleet, each one carrying families like theirs, humans, Sylphi, and dozens of other species working together to heal the wounds that greed and fear had inflicted on the galaxy. "What's our next destination?" he asked Zara. She placed her hand on the ship's living control surface, communing with the vessel's consciousness. Images flowed through their bond, a distant world where mechanical cities had replaced all natural life, inhabited by a species that had forgotten how to grow anything but technology. They need gardens, Zara said simply. They need to remember that machines without life are just expensive graves. As their bioship adjusted course toward this new mission of healing, Marcus reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them here. He'd started as a lonely botanist trying to forget his losses, but Zara had taught him that loss was just another form of seed, something that could grow into unexpected beauty if tended with love and courage. Outside their window, the stars themselves seemed to pulse with the rhythm of life, as if the entire universe was finally breathing freely again. And at the center of it all was family, not the one he'd lost, but the one he'd chosen, and the one that had chosen him in return. The gardener's gift wasn't just the ability to nurture growth, it was the wisdom to know that every ending was also a beginning, every loss a chance for new life, and every act of compassion a seed that could bloom across the cosmos. Their work was far from finished, but for the first time in years, Marcus looked forward to the harvest ahead.